Well, our crop, if you look at the portfolio, that hasn't changed much. We still have wheat, bread wheat and durum are the priorities. We also work in the general purpose class and the hard wheat. Barley is still a priority for both malting and food. Oats is still a priority, and all of the pulse crops, peas, lentils, and chickpeas and beans are priorities. Flax as well is a priority. Most of the varieties are looking at yield, of course. You still have to be able to produce more on the farm. Incorporating disease resistance, if you look at wheat, a lot of the thrust is in that area. It's also on the quality for all of them, for all the crops. In wheat, especially with in durum, we're looking at the semolina, at the quality of semolina. They're also looking at standability so that the stems can be firmer and stand, because lodging can be an expensive event. In terms of flax, it's also looking at the quality of the seed and yield. Barley is looking at making a better malt. So how do you get more of the fermentation index out of your barley? And the food barley, of course, it's looking at any health attributes that will make it a proposition, a value proposition. In the case of pulses, they are focusing on what we call biofortification, because our soils are young. They do have higher amounts of iron and zinc than most of the other soils in the world. So for lentil especially, we have reached a point now where we think we have adequate iron in lentil, which if it's fed to someone who is borderline anemia could improve. Those studies will be done soon in Bangladesh. Peas, we're looking at low phytate pea, and what that will mean is you have more of the bioavailable form of the phosphorus, and it also means that you don't have the phytate which will bind on iron and zinc and those very things you want to retain in your body. We also are looking at that in chickpeas as well. So the gist is you've got yield, you've got all those, the parameters that will make a variety stand on the field, disease resistance, so you can try and protect that yield, and the quality side, mainly on the end use. I think in wheat, they are on the verge of coming out with a solid stem varieties, which is a breakthrough because they've been using a lot of molecular tools. So they've got markers for that, and that will help. My understanding is the solid stem could also help against the, I think, the midge sawfly. So that is a significant improvement. In terms of pulses yield, we are seeing a significant gain of yield in lentil, in addition to some of the qualities that it already has. So those are the two main areas. But I would say that all crops are focused on trying to stay ahead of the competition. It shouldn't. I think, I don't know if investments have increased from the private sector. I'm not privy to any of that, but I know there has been an increased interest in wheat, and in terms of the public, we haven't changed. I cannot speak for AAFC, the other major public breeder of wheat in Canada, but I can speak for the CDC, where we have increased activities. We are leading the sequencing of some of the chromosomes of the wheat genome is a large, almost $9 million of a global effort, includes Americans and the Europeans. And so that really could change the way we look at weight, because once we are able to do the sequencing, if we have resources to translate that information, we could gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight into what makes what in weight, and then we can improve weight, probably trying to narrow down the time for the development of varieties. So we have ramped up our activities in weight. We have always done that. About 60% averagely of our funding is from the private sector. So the public isn't the major funder to the CDC. So we've always done that in some crops much at a higher rate. Say in pulses, if you consider that SPG is a private. A corporation with millions of shareholders shouldn't be any different from a commodity association, which also has a few thousands of growers who are shareholders. I think it takes a while to develop a relationship. If you look at what we have at the CDC with Quaker, now that should be PepsiCo Inc., and Sapporo. Those are long-standing relationships, so they do evolve over time. It has to be on a win-win. It has to be the company must see a win, and the university must see a win for that to happen. It also should be program-based, on a particular issue that you want resolved, but it has to be long-term. You cannot have a short-term relationship just because of the time it takes to bring a variety into the marketplace. It has to be long-term. AFC is probably the largest, or is the largest breeder for wheat in Canada. So it should affect in terms of the number of varieties or the capacity to do that. It should affect some work in pathology. Remember, Winnipeg or the station in Winnipeg was established for rust research in wheat. So they've always had a very strong emphasis in pathology, in diseases. So that should affect, assuming that the staff are not still in place, somewhere else to do exactly that. I think morale, it raises questions about what next. Is probably it is well thought out. I haven't seen any document, laying out why it is being done and who is going to take over and all that. But I do know that there are plans in Air Canada for that. So, but morale is because talking to some of the breeders, their friends in Air Canada, aren't in the best of mood at this time, and that can affect how you think in an innovative environment. One way, top-notch scientists. You look at pulses, wheat, flax, barley. Our scientists in the CDC have been among the world's best. So that is a magnet. Students want to go to a professor who is very productive, publishes a lot of papers, and is well known, because you want to get out with a lot on the go. Second is state of the art. We are deploying a lot of technologies that you would find in the private sector. Some crops are more advanced than others, but students will have a try on genomic tools and all this state of the art. So that is an attraction. We have a diverse array of crops that we breed at the CDC. So you can go to pulses, you can go to a cereal crop, so that again brings a lot of students, and so there is a fellowship among students. You don't have a department with 2 or 3, but a lot more. And I think what helps is funding in place. Our faculty have been very good at attracting funds, both from the public and private sectors, and that has helped because most students, or I think almost all students, are on a grant of sort. I think what you can do to help is if you establish scholarships specifically into breeding, that will help because a lot of students we train are in agronomy. Right. But if you were to target, if you were to dedicate a good scholarship that will interest someone who has a degree up to the master's level to do a PhD, that will be. If you were to establish research chairs, even at the university, you can walk in and after discussions, if there is the mutuality of benefit and a win-win, establish a chair that has your name, your logo on the chair, and that obviously will attract students with an interest in the field. And I think internships in the summer, both graduate students typically are busy with research in the summer, but undergraduates, try to recruit them and show them what it's like to work in the seed industry, how vibrant it is, how well-meaning, the fulfillment that you're part of a value chain that is helping feed the world. We have a lot of young people where altruism is really high among them. I've got 2 daughters, and sometimes I'm worried that they're not going to work for money because they think they should be solving the world's problem. But they do have a value proposition besides monetary value, and we should be tapping into that.